wetlands that we'd like to submit a permit application for. What are your initial thoughts? You know, tell us what the pitfalls are, what should we be thinking of, how can we essentially put together an application that's likely to get.
Sure, can I stop you one second? Are you familiar with what we're doing? Maybe you want to give Mike a quick, let me give you the photograph. Just give him a briefing.
I have the photograph.
You have the photograph here? Okay.
So, it's hard to remember.
But our drain and everything, yeah.
2006, maybe? We went, the town council on behalf of the town, this one shows what we want. Okay. So, this is the backside around Marsh, so Zeke's Creek.
Oh, you're getting
North
rid
Road
of fragmites.
Yep, getting rid of them.
Yeah, I was on the council when you presented
Yeah,
this.
right. So
Wait,
that's
what's
how long
that?
ago it was.
Hey, it wasn't long ago.
See that?
Okay.
So anyway,
So you
the
did
end
know it.
result, we got a NRCS Wildlife Habitat Incentives Program grant to do Phragmites removal, which is supposed to be a 75-25 cost split. Well, they'll support 75% of it, and we have to come up with 25% of it. A lot of our 25% was proposed in in-kind services, so we've been doing all of the marsh monitoring ourselves as volunteers, and some of the preliminary program management. Bruce and the town council at that time, which had something to do back then, at least gave some initial support that they would provide some public works staff time and some help getting it done. So we've gone forward. NRCS got way bogged down to do all the technical prep work for it, and they finally just come back to us with all of the topography and the hydrological monitoring this past fall. So it's just really started moving again. So we went out with NRCS, we looked at what does the restoration really entail, what are we proposing, how much sediments involved, what are the issues. Then we got, just a couple weeks ago, got Tim Mott from CRMC to come out with us, did the same thing again, walked through, said here's what we're thinking, what are your thoughts, what's CRMC likely to be concerned about. And the big issues right now are dredge disposal. So basically the proposed restoration is mainly ditching, we talked about this last month, but re-ditching, re-excavating these historic mosquito ditches that have been plugged up and trying to get rid of Phragmites and allow salt water to come in. So the big problem there is what do you do with the stuff that you dig out of the channel? The equipment that you're using in the marsh is low pressure equipment, so it's mostly very small. So you're using an excavator, but it's a fairly small excavator. You can rent on-marsh dump trucks, but they're very small dump trucks. So it's an issue of how do you get the stuff from in the marsh to out of the marsh as directly as possible. So dredge disposal sites are problematic. There's no reason to believe that we should have too much problems with the stuff we're excavating being clean, but one of the things that's a significant problem is everything in this section that's currently covered in Phragmites has Phragmites rhizomes in it. So you can't dump that somewhere. It has to be composted. So you need a fairly sizable area to compost it. And then it's most likely going to be, totally clean fill, but you got to kill the frag first. Just put it somewhere, you'll just relocate your problem elsewhere.
I think there's t-shirts in here. Kill
That's right. We talked about t-shirts. So that's been some of the creative aspect, is trying to figure out where can we put this stuff. So one of the problems identified by Tim that was one we were aware of, but something we got to work on a little more, is that a lot of the sanctuary property in the surrounding area is all freshwater wetland. And CRMC is very unlikely to permit disposal in a wetland because that's a wetland alteration. So our next step is really to try and figure out if there's anywhere on site that we can dispose of that would be upland and suitable would be the best way to go. If it's a wetland or a marginal wetland, that we're proposing, we're really going to have to be able to make a strong case for why it's the only place that's appropriate.
Would it be suitable for capping?
That's the other thing. We left there saying, okay, the other thing to talk to Bruce about is it suitable for capping? Is there somewhere else on town property that we could dispose of it? Could it be composted at the country club? What are the other off-site options? That of course gets more expensive. So those are the things that we are working through right now. The next step, in my mind, that we'll need to do is to get a wetlands delineation of the property so that we can rule out or identify if there are any on-site locations that are appropriate. So that's where we are on that.
You might want to mention to Mike what the area we're looking at for access, and the other issue is getting into the property. And there's one area we're looking at that the town owns.
So the other issue is construction access. That was one of Tim's other concerns. We had considered construction access. The most direct route to get in here is this area right off the access road on 138. This is just biologically horrendous spot, which was essentially where all of the, it looks like they cleaned all the cement trucks when they built the bridge out here. It's just all heavy fill and poorly disposed of other construction materials. So the stuff that's growing on it is basically all crap. And this is my probably #1 choice. I think this is the only upland we might find is some of this in here. It could be a disposal site, but it's trying to think through disposal and access in a way that's going to be most appropriate. Otherwise, I thought Tim's response and site visit were hugely favorable, and he was really excited about it. He was excited about the fact that it's a pretty pure, biologically focused project. It doesn't have that, oh, and by the way, I'll get a nice review kind of thing going on in the background. So he was, it was kind of a chance for him to go out and be a real biologist, and he was pretty pleased. The other big news is that just today I got the letter. We had submitted a pre-proposal for CRMC Habitat and Trust Restoration Funds. And we did get asked to submit a full proposal, which will have to go in January. By that time, we're going to need to have identified these things in much greater specificity, and hopefully they will give us another $20,000 to put towards.
We're looking for additional money.
Construction.
We think that because of this disposal and trucking, we're not going to have enough money in the grant. The grant was what, 69,000?
The grant was 70. The whole
70,000.
project was originally budgeted at 90-something, but it looks like it's going to go up a bit from there.
Suitable for landfill camping.
It's got salt in it. That's the only issue.
Yeah.
We be careful. But we did talk to Bruce, and there are a lot of options that need to be considered more seriously, and we at least entertained the idea with them. I talked with the Stowski's son at the country club, and they may have some use because they're doing some area there. But the problem is, like Carol said, it's got rhizomes in it, so you can either compost it first,
The frag blade and stuff definitely has to be composted, but according to John at NRCS, that's, maybe a year. It's really not that long.
Have these bright line areas expanded since this project started?
And those are things like for this full proposal for CRMC, I'd really like to get firmer figures on that, but it is advancing, so that's part of the goal. I mean, ideally, you'd love to see this all revert to salt marsh the way it was. That's not going to happen entirely in the future, but what we can do is stop it from this continued advancement that we've seen in the last 15 years, because it's only going one way.
And it's not the only place on that.
Right.
So.
No, it's certainly not, but this is still a really, the biological integrity of the rest of the site is really significant, so it's worth making this effort now.
Fortunately, Mike, the town owns all this, and the town owns this piece over here too. So we've got some options for access, and we're actually going to look at this area, this area here, because that's pretty much where all the fill is put. It's possible we can do some mounding there, or at least composting there. We may have to clear an area to do it, but it's, like Carol said, it's pretty disturbed already.
But the CRMC doesn't care.
Yeah,
That was a big problem that we kept coming up with.
If it's wetlands, we've got a problem.
It's all fine and good to say, it's really crappy now, it's all, previous disposal, but all they care about is what that
if it's become wetlands,
is now. If it's wet, then it's a wetland. Whether it's a really, poor quality wetland or not, doesn't matter. It's still a regulated wetland, and they can't give you.
What is wet?
Wet is wetland, yeah. We would say that if it was an applicant. I don't know if this is going to be useful for you. Probably it's too old, but.
I think it's significantly too old, because looking at those aerial photos, the vegetation on the property has changed so much. I think it really confuses things.
The original flow went through here, just like, look at this. This is the original subdivision plan there. There's a cul-de-sac. This is a sanctuary. This is Miss Stowski's house now. Here's a house here, all these lots were originally proposed. And then Island Engineering did the original wetland delineation, which is probably, the edges, it wouldn't be good enough for what we need, but I just found this in my file the other day.
Yeah.
Like I said, we saw lots of that.
Cleaning out there, Chris.
It was institutional memory, that's for sure. I'll show you the picture of the hotel they proposed there. Beautiful hotel.
Carol, what was the funny attitude?
Give that stuff to the historical society.
Oh, we got to file that.
Coastal and Estuarine Habitat Restoration Trust Fund.
Yeah.